This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Well, she is an elected public official, and so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk.
This is a whole ocean beyond a slippery slope, because now we're going to have Republicans routinely threatening Democratic lawmakers with criminal penalties if you dare go a little too far against our oligarchs.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Another day in the United Corporations of America, and now President Trump's Attorney General, or shall I say lackey, Pam Bondi, is threatening potential criminal punishment against a congresswoman for daring to criticize the unelected chainsaw destroying our government, the world's richest man, Elon Musk, while at the same time, the Attorney General is crickets on a driver who rammed into protesters outside a Tesla dealership. How's that for equal justice? Let's start with Representative Jasmine Crockett, who made, as far as I could tell, fairly innocent comments about Elon Musk on her birthday. Jasmine Crockett, a congresswoman's under fire remarks came during a nationwide call with the Tesla takedown movement, a self-described, quote, peaceful protest platform calling for Tesla owners to sell their vehicles and for all to dump their stocks in the EV provider. Quote, on March 29th, it's my birthday, Crockett told the group in reference to an upcoming global day of action intended to hit back at the company. Quote, all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down, she added. I have learned as I serve on the Doge Oversight Committee that there is only one language that the people that are in charge understand right now, and that language is money. Amen. I've been saying it for years. I love protesters. I love activists. Status Coup has covered all protests we can, from Black Lives Matter to Medicare for All to the climate justice movement to indigenous protests. But at a certain point, marching around streets over and over, chanting the same things with the same signs year after year without threatening the donors' wallets, without threatening with boycotts economically, without threatening economic strikes, doesn't really deliver much results, as we've seen. But I don't see anything in that statement. She's not saying, hey, go get your Molotov cocktails and torch Teslas. She's not saying light Teslas on fire. She's not saying commit violence towards Tesla customers. She was very specifically stating, hit them where it hurts, the wallet, which is what the Tesla protesters all over the world, not just America, have been doing. Tesla's share prices, stock prices are sinking like the Titanic. Tesla's sales in America, Germany, many countries around the world, sinking. I'm sorry to the Tesla workers, but your CEO is a megalomaniac, ketamine addict who basically wants to destroy government, privatize everything, and let AI take our jobs. So unfortunately, there will be innocent victims, both the American public and Tesla workers, who I'm sure are good people. But those comments were met by quite the authoritarian response, something you believe you think you would hear in like Turkey or Saudi Arabia or, you know, some strongman country. Pam Bondi responded to this comment not to commit violence against Elon Musk, but to take him down, very specifically talking about the money. Pam Bondi responded to that by basically threatening potential punishment against the good congresswoman. Let's play this clip.
There have been 3 federal charges so far, and I say so far. We are looking at all of these cases across the country. We have a dedicated task force. These are not isolated incidents, as you know, and these aren't vandals. These are Molotov cocktails. You know, that could be a weapon of mass destruction that they're throwing in Tesla dealerships, that they're lighting these Tesla charging stations on fire that are in residential neighborhoods. I mean, it could cause tremendous damages, and people need to know the 3 people in custody right now, they will receive severe and swift consequences, and they are facing up to 20 years in prison. We are not negotiating these. We are not coming off these charges. We are looking at everything, especially if this is a concerted effort. This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. Yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk. And we're going to fight to protect all of the Tesla owners throughout this country. And it's this basic safety. Once again, domestic terrorism is going to come to a stop in our country.
Tread very lightly, Congresswoman, elected official Jasmine Crockett. By the way, she did not say, take him out on my birthday. Let's compare and contrast. Take him out versus take him down. She said, take him down. All I want is for Elon to be taken down. And she was very clear. She was talking about the financial protests for his company to be taken down, not take him out. So, of course, Donald Trump's AG is just blatantly lying. But this is beyond a slippery slope. She said, we're not even talking about American, just unelected Americans, which they've been brutally attacking our First Amendment rights for years, not just the Republicans, Democrats too. You're now going after and not even, subtly, basically saying you better tread lightly or the Department of Justice is going to come after you criminally. Against elected officials? This is a whole ocean beyond a slippery slope, because now we're going to have Republicans routinely threatening Democratic lawmakers with criminal penalties if you dare go a little too far against our oligarchs. Speaking about the Republican Party's oligarchs. Of course, the Democratic Party, I doubt they would do this because they're too spineless to give it in return if they take back power. But this is what you see in authoritarian countries where the Department of Justice or, their equivalent in other countries are blatantly weaponized and basically become vessels for the president or prime minister to go after their political opponents. And we're talking about threatening criminal punishment against a congresswoman, not for anything other than criticizing an oligarch, criticizing Donald Trump's biggest donor, criticizing Donald Trump's sugar daddy, basically. I mean, if that doesn't make this obvious to you that we are living in the United Corporations of America, I do not know what will. And if they get away with this against an elected official, you better be very, very prepared for the temperature and the acceleration of attacks against our unelected freedom of speech to go from 0 to 180 very quick. Let's play Jasmine Crockett's response to the threat from the Attorney General.
So Pam Bondi, if you have an issue with terrorism, maybe you should talk to your boss about locking back up those guys that he let out that participated in January 6th.
When Pam Bondi, though, says, tread carefully, what does that even mean?
Yeah. All it means is that she's attempting to get me to say, oh, I'm going to be scared and I'm just not going to say anything, because they are willing to literally break the law. I mean, that's what we've seen them do. They are ignoring court orders. They are ignoring what our own laws are. When we look at things such as impoundment, things like that, this entire administration is rogue. And this isn't about partisanship. I keep trying to tell people that we are living in the time time of good versus evil, right versus wrong. And right now, when we are looking at the black letter of the law and they are deciding, I'm just going to ignore it, then they are wrong. That is clear as day. And right now, they are going after anyone who decides that they will challenge them, whether it's the judges that are sitting on the benches, whether it is lawyers that have decided that they were going to represent their clients to the best of their ability, and most of them won against Trump and his administration. Basically, they are trying to get rid of all voices of dissent.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And what makes this incredibly dangerous, because you might say, yes, obviously this is dangerous, but it's not surprising Trump is doing this. But right now, they are doing everything they can to get rid of illegal immigrants. But ICE has already harassed, rounded up American citizens. If they're now going to start threatening with the Department of Justice elected officials with criminal punishment for criticizing Emperor Musk, what makes you think they're not going to start targeting social media users, X users, folks outside the Tesla protest, not doing any violence, just protesting? What makes you think they're not going to charge you with felonies or domestic terrorism? They charge protesters at Standing Rock with terrorism. They charge protesters down at Cop City, who literally were charged with domestic terrorism down in Atlanta for opposing the military police compound in the forest. They charged dozens of protesters with domestic terrorism who had no weapons and were protesting. Some of them got charged with domestic terrorism for holding flares or from running away from cops who had just shot and killed an unarmed protester. So what makes you think this escalation isn't coming to you? Now it's Tesla. You don't think they're going to start charging and rounding up folks and charging you with terrorism the next pipeline you protest? You don't think they're going to start rounding up, charging you with terrorism if you go outside and protest United Healthcare, BlackRock, or anybody else part of the cabal that is the United Corporations of America? If you don't think that's coming, I got a bridge to sell you. But interestingly enough, and Congresswoman Crockett made the point, you want to charge Tesla protesters as domestic terrorists while letting people who stormed the Capitol to illegally overthrow the results of a fair election, who smashed windows, broke into the Capitol. And I know there's some who say, oh, Jordan, it wasn't everyone. Okay, we got the footage. Our cameraman, John Farina, got the historic footage of the cops whose head was rammed into the door by the Trump mob. He's also got 2 nearly broken ribs to show for it because the Trump mob was ramming into him as he was shooting that shot. They were released from prison. The Department of Justice is threatening an elected official with, it seems to me, criminal penalty for just criticizing Elon Musk. But at the same time, I don't think this was really covered extensively in the mainstream media. Recently, if you missed it, you had a driver ram into protesters in West Palm Beach, Florida, Mar-a-Lago country. It was a near miss. That driver thus far has only been charged with assault. Near miss at SUV, as SUV drove at Musk protesters outside Tesla West Palm Beach showroom. Protesters lined up outside the Tesla showroom in President Donald Trump's home county on Saturday were met by honks, mainly in support. Then a black SUV drove into the crowd of more than 100 protesters. No one was injured, thankfully, but the near-miss incident underscores the rising tension over the automaker's CEO, Elon Musk, and his high-profile and highly controversial role in the Trump administration. Quote, he drove into a crowd of senior citizens, said Mark Offerman of the Democratic Progressive Caucus, Palm Beach County, about the driver. Quote, everybody was able to move out, but 2 older women were really almost clipped. We immediately called the cops. The driver of the vehicle, a Nissan Pathfinder, abruptly parked on the sidewalk where protesters had assembled and jumped out of the car, claiming his brakes and electronics had gone out. Oh, that's quite inconvenient time, huh? He told protesters to, quote, leave the car alone. Upon arriving, Police spoke with the driver and interviewed about 5 protesters who also provided photo and video evidence of what had happened. The man was arrested at the scene and will be charged with assault, according to the deputy from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Let me get this straight. The DOJ is threatening an elected congresswoman with potential criminal penalty for daring to criticize Emperor Musk. She didn't call for violence. She very clearly was talking about keep bringing down those shares, keep bringing down Tesla's stock price, keep bringing down their sales. Yet this happened Saturday. Today is Monday. Tesla is in the news. You would think a driver literally driving into Granny and Grandpa, 100 of them in Florida, thank God there was no one injured or hurt, would be a little bit more than assault. You would think, I don't know if I buy that all of a sudden his brakes and electronics just malfunctioned as he was approaching a Tesla with 100 protesters. That seems like really, really bad luck, huh? Maybe we could get a statement from the Attorney General on that, because that seems to be domestic terrorism. And imagine if he actually hit some of those seniors and they were more than just injuries, but deaths. Do you even think Pam Bondi would call for criminal punishment? Do you think Ron DeSantis would, the governor of Florida? You think they'd call it terrorism? No. MAGA, if you're watching, would that not be terrorism? Is it only terrorism if it hurts your king? If it hurts your unelected emperor? That's terrorism if it hurts their bottom line. If it hurts Tesla sales. I thought this was a free market. But it's not terrorism if a driver attempts to ram into 100 seniors. Very, very slippery slope, folks. Very slippery slope. And by the way, Pam Bondi, maybe you should open up a criminal investigation into Elon Musk and his cohorts very clearly trying to sabotage Social Security. I mean, the news is barely covering this. Leaked memo, Doge plot to cut Social Security phone support. An internal memo from the Social Security Administration proposes changes to its phone service that could derail the benefits application process for many Americans. The Trump administration has repeatedly said it doesn't plan changes to Social Security other than to address fraud and waste. Yeah. But these proposals risk, quote, crippling a system already plagued by delays and facing staffing cuts. Former agency officials tell Axios. Axios obtained a draft of the memo signed by acting Deputy Social Security Commissioner Doris Diaz on March 13th and written on behalf of the agency's operations department. Its existence was first reported by Popular.info, which published a screenshot of subsequent versions sent to acting Commissioner Leland Dudick. The memo was sent one day after the agency denied in a press release a report it was scrapping its toll-free phone line. They lie. They lie like the oxygen coming out of their lungs. It's just breathtaking. The agency at the time said the changes would only preclude people from changing their bank account information by phone. So they're basically trying to get rid of phone support. They're also trying to replace humans at the Social Security Administration with artificial intelligence. What could go wrong? And of course, this is going to cause long delays, crippling delays, seniors waiting on hold for hours at a time, if they're even able to then reach a human, likely have delays in checks. And then what's going to happen? Donald Trump and his cohorts are going to say, see, government can't handle something like Social Security. We need to send it to the private sector. And that begins the grand plot. Actually, it doesn't begin, finishes the grand plot to privatize Social Security with Medicare coming next. That's what's going on. And by the way, maybe Attorney General Pam Bondi, while she's at it, if she wants to investigate potential fraud, waste, and abuse, Elon Musk is at it again. Remember during the election, he offered $100 to every voter in Pennsylvania to register while they stole their voter data, while they obtained their personal information and voter data to help Trump win. Well, now he's doing it again a couple days before a big Wisconsin judge election. Musk PAC offers $100 to Wisconsin voters who signed petition against, quote, activist judges. Elon Musk's Political Action Committee is offering Wisconsin voters $100 who sign a petition opposing, quote, activist judges ahead of the April 1st Wisconsin Supreme Court election, echoing the billionaire's controversial cash giveaways during Donald Trump's 2024 campaign. The petition, promoted online and at an in-person event by Musk's America PAC, asks voters in the state to reject, quote, activist judges who impose their own views. Yeah, i.e. judges who block your illegal actions. Wisconsin voters who sign up are eligible to receive the $100, according to the PAC. The petition's language mirrors recent attacks by Musk and Trump on federal judges who have ruled against the administration. It reads, quote, judges should interpret laws as written, not rewrite them to fit their personal or political agendas. Well, you might want to talk to the Supreme Court then, because ever since Donald Trump appointed the Federalist Societies molded candidates, they're not following written law or the Constitution. From Brett Kavanaugh to Neil Gorsuch to the one from The Handmaid's Tale, Amy Coney Barrett. The world's richest man has used cash giveaways in past elections, including a controversial $1 million sweepstakes to voters in swing states. So far, two political groups aligned with Musk, America PAC and Building America's Future, have poured nearly $20 million into supporting Republican candidate Brad Schimel. That's for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. In a memo obtained by ABC News, Building America's Future said that internal polling showed that Schimel was within striking distance of Democratic candidate Susan Crawford. So let's get voters to sign against activist judges so we could then get their information, their voter data file, and target them. Kind of think that's illegal, but who knows anymore? They're making up or breaking the law on a whim. Very, very alarming times, and we unfortunately do not have an opposition party in this country to actually oppose this full-throttled, yes, it's fascism. Tick-tock.